to the rear door.
Doors open.
As always, thanks to my patrons. Your donations make this content possible. Grade crossings and grade crossing incidents are a complex issue, and so to help me with this topic, I brought on two engineers, one of them being a civil engineer that created the plan to grade separate downtown Salt Lake City, with both of them playing a vital role in pushing this project to become a reality. Lenhart and Frederick Jenny.
I just actually got back from biking from work to be here to talk to you. And on my way back, I actually got blocked by a Union Pacific freight train. It was backing out of the North Yard, which is just north of the city, and it was heading down toward Roper Yard, which is down in the south. And in order to get there, it cuts right through downtown along the 600 West corridor area. As I was standing there waiting, there were cars backed up waiting for the train to clear. There were people, pedestrians. I was on my bike, as well as a bunch of other people. And as the train cleared, people immediately started going in while the gates were down. And in the distance, I had heard while the large freight train was going by a train whistle from our commuter rail, the front runner. So as I'm watching, this woman is in the middle of the railroad crossing as another train is coming right toward her.
And it's crazy because Fred is telling me this story, but this exact story has played out before. Except that time, the woman wasn't as lucky.
A woman who was hit by a front-runner train in Salt Lake City this afternoon has died. It happened at 800 South, 600 West in Salt Lake City. UTA says the woman was waiting to cross and started walking after a Union Pacific train passed, but she did not see the front-runner train coming from the other direction. UTA says the crossing gate was down, but she was standing inside of it. UTA also says her identity is being withheld until her family has been notified.
I believe she was actually heading toward her job. She looked very business professional, all that stuff. And that's the divide. People live on the west side and work on the east side, or sometimes vice versa if you're me. And in downtown itself, there are only two crossings that are grade separated. That's North Temple and 400 South. But the space between them is nearly a mile. So if you're on a bike or you're walking, you're going to want to go to one of the grade crossings because it's closer to your home. But if there's a freight train sitting there blocking your way, you either A, have to walk out of your way to go over the bridge, or in most cases, people just go right through them. They will take the risk and go climb over the railroad tracks. I've seen it. Christian's seen it. There have been a total of, I believe, since we proposed this project, 6 or 7 fatalities, numerous injuries, and incidents that have happened in this rail corridor.
Fred's right, about 6 to 7 people have been hit and killed by the faster trains since this project was proposed. That's more than one per year. And the reason that people take their lives into their hands like that is that often the freight trains that move through so slowly in town, they can block the crossings for tens or dozens of minutes at a time. You don't know how long the crossing gates will be down. And when they're down, you can't get through. Emergency vehicles can't get through. If you're having an emergency on the west side where a lot of the main fire stations and things are on the east side, you're just out of luck for a while. UTA, they can't run their regular city buses over crossings that have freight trains. A lot of the bus routes that are on the east side in the downtown, they stop at the railroad tracks or go on huge detours because they do not want to have their bus schedules delayed by having their buses go across the at-grade crossings. So the way that the city has structured itself, it really is very divided along the rail line itself.
So the divide truly is train. But I don't want to discount that the freeway also goes through that area. But you don't have to cross 16 lanes of freeway at grade to get to downtown. You do have to cross 4, sometimes 8 railroad tracks to get downtown.
Just for the longest time, people have just accepted that. That's the way it is. The trains have to be where they are. And the Rio Grande Plan is basically the only solution that I've seen out there to say that, no, we can do something better. We can move the tracks to a better place, to a new space, grade separate by putting the tracks below the street level so that the city above and the freight trains, everyone can have their own space so that there doesn't need to be this conflict anymore. There's 3 parts to the Rio Grande Plan. The one is grade separation. It's to remove all the at-grade railroad railroad crossings in downtown Salt Lake City. The second part is to reuse the historic Rio Grande Depot and repurpose it as a train station so that we can have a Grand Central train station for Salt Lake City once again. And the third part is redevelopment. It's taking the land where the tracks are now, where there is underutilized rail yards, and turning that into more downtown, basically, be able to redevelop that land. And by doing part three, the redevelopment, you'll earn enough revenue to pay for the costs of parts one and part two. So you'll get a new grade separated corridor for passenger and for freight trains through downtown. And you'll get a new train station. Rather, you'll get to use the old train station as a new one, which is much closer to downtown. And then third, you'll have space for tens of thousands of new people to live and work and be in Salt Lake City.
The Rio Grande Plan is two phases, and that's how they divided this study. Phase one being the construction and demolition, basically dig up everything, build the train box, fix the train station, and open up the land. Then the second part is redevelopment. These are one-time events. During the redevelopment, you will be able to create homes and businesses, hospitals, what have you. So during this phase, obviously it's a one-time event, demolition and construction. You're looking at direct GDP values of almost $2 billion added to the Utah economy from this. Those are as in direct being because of this project, you are getting $2 billion. Indirect are the contracts that come from the project. So you're going to obviously need to have deliveries come there. You're going to have to hire people. You're going to have other things like that. Induced is entertainment, hotels, and food services that come from the project existing there. You will be able to see the total economic output of this first phase, just being the construction and demolition, being $4.85 billion of economic output with a value added of $3 billion of GDP. That is huge, considering the cost of the project right now is estimated between $3 and $5 billion. So right there, just because we built the thing, we've almost paid for the investment itself with added GDP value. So going on from that, you're obviously going to have jobs that come from this. This total job creation, almost 20,000 jobs. The direct jobs, 12,000. And then you have the income. How much are these people making, or how much are the wages adding up to? Total increase of wages is $1.7 billion. That's huge. These are almost some of the numbers that freeway projects get to use a lot. But freeway projects love to say, we make this amount of jobs and we add this much to the GDP because we're building things. Well, we're doing the same thing. But the difference is we have redevelopment. We're not taking land by expanding a freeway. We are giving land back to the city by burying the rails. And so during this redevelopment, you're adding another $2.4 billion in GDP to the economy when you're redeveloping this rail yard. And I want to caveat that this is just underneath the tracks. This is not anything ancillary around the railroad tracks. This is not city-owned land, privately owned land. That is not included. We wanted to make sure that this economic benefit analysis was very conservative because we did not want to overpromise. So we did not include the additional probably 100 acres around the project area that will be developed as a result and be lifted up. So you could just see how much this is going to create going forward for the economy of Utah and the West in general. Then you get into phase two, the continued impact of the project. This is going to be the jobs that show up from here, the commercial, the offices, the restaurants, hopefully some of the jobs at the train station, expanded Amtrak service isn't even included in this. Like, you could have a lot happening because of this. So you could even see how many more people are going to come in from hotels, what the guests are going to want to do. You know, we used Denver Union Station as an example of this case study. We used Reno, Nevada, who built their own train trench. And we basically merged the two together into one project. That's the Rio Grande Plan.
It just goes to show this is a very, very big project. It's about the cost of one of the major freeway expansions that's being proposed here ahead of the next big event, the 2034 Winter Olympics. The state legislature has allocated about just over $4 billion to expand the local freeway headed north from Salt Lake City. It's also similar to the cost of the recent expansion of the Salt Lake City Airport, which was also just over $5 billion to build the new terminal building there. So it's a project that fits very well within the largest projects we have in terms of projects cost. But what it does do that those other two projects don't is create this immediate payback for the Utah economy, where the airport was already a functioning airport, and where the I-15 is already a congested freeway. It will remain a congested freeway even with the expansion. The Rio Grande Plan has a way of creating new space and new opportunity that those other two projects don't. Support has been an interesting pursuit. We've been approaching the railroad, the Department of Transportation, the city staff with this plan, and we've been working at it for several years because it's kind of backwards to the way that a lot of projects happen. Usually the government will come along with a study to identify problems. They had not identified railroad crossings and wasted land use in Salt Lake City, or even the lack of a central train station. Those are all big issues, but they don't stick up enough to get the government's attention, or at least they hadn't yet. And so our proposing a solution to these problems is a little bit backwards to how things had been done. And we feel that without this specific solution of grade separating the tracks rather than having the roads go over or under the tracks, by doing it this way, we solve more problems at once than by trying to approach it one by one by one. So we've been learning that without a specific government process in place, that is, they're not ready to have big suggestions like this, that we need to lead our representatives, the city officials, through the entire process from step one. If the problem isn't already identified by the government, then it's not one that they're very interested in solving. And so our main problem that we've been trying to solve at the moment is trying to show that this is a problem, or that there is a huge opportunity, that both sides, there's issues with the current infrastructure and there's opportunities by investing in infrastructure in this way. But because we're outsiders doing it from a perspective of advocacy, we've had to be a little creative in how we approach our meetings with legislators. The first step is making sure the thing that you're proposing is a good solution to the problem. The Rio Grande Plan is compelling, I think, because it includes the redevelopment of land afterwards. So it kind of closes its own loop. It's expensive, but it also offers a lot of opportunity. And there's other attractive things about it as well, that it's a historic train station that's being saved from obsolescence. And you have community assets, the public transit that could be made more useful. Those are all things that people want. And so it helps to have a plan that you're proposing that has a lot of its own self-evident merit, that people can understand what it is and get on board with it right away. The other step to that is it needs to be tailored to fit the expectations of the community. It needs to be something that's realistically achievable. I was talking before about how the price of the project is high, but it won't be the most expensive project ever for the state of Utah. It will be right in line with some of the big projects, but definitely not the biggest. And I guess the third would be I forgot what the third is. It has to do with being able to meet the elected representatives where they are, find what their interests are, and what their goals for the community are. If you're proposing something completely separate from them, they've got.
Got it! So my free 40-minute Zoom meeting ended, but I think this would be a perfect time to mention that Christian actually has his own YouTube channel where he talks about this project, and you can get more of an understanding of how you can create a massive grassroots project like this and get it to the point where it can actually become reality. But I think the biggest takeaway from this project is that sometimes government officials don't see busy grade crossings as a significant issue, which means that it oftentimes is up to us to show them that it is. This involves us educating them on their own infrastructure. In the past decade, I've seen a lot of cities around the US want to create their own version of the New York City High Line, but it seems like those government officials don't really understand why the High Line exists in the first place. The High Line exists because back then, freight trains used to travel up and down the west side of Manhattan at street level in order to access the warehouses and docks. With the frequent number of trains traveling up and down the line, unfortunately a lot of people were dying. I was not trying to rhyme. The rail line was grade separated to separate trains from people and cars, and to this day New York maintains the tradition of doing this. For example, New York opened up new platforms for Long Island Railroad service at Grand Central. Because of this, they knew the Long Island Railroad would have to run more trains. So in conjunction with opening up the new terminal, the state also triple-tracked the Long Island Railroad's main line. But they also knew that they wouldn't benefit from the triple tracking much, as the section that they were triple tracking wasn't grade separated. Because despite what people might think, you can't just add more rail service that cut at grade through busy downtowns. Not only is that a safety risk as you risk hitting more people since you're running more trains, but you also end up stopping more traffic more often. So there really is a finite number of trains that you can run over grade crossings, especially if you're sharing the train line with freight. And this is why the Long Island Railroad completely grade separated the main line. And I'm sorry Caltrain, but this has to be the best modern day regional rail project, as it increased the US's busiest regional rail system's on-time performance to 97%, despite them running more trains. And UTA's frontrunner has a similar project, despite grade separation not being a part of it. UTA is increasing the double tracking on the frontrunner corridor in order to run trains every half hour, instead of hourly. I'm no mathematician, but I do know that more trains going across these crossings means more accidents. But just like in New York, this increase in service is a necessity. This is why this project should be done in conjunction with the Rio Grande Plan. And I guess I'll end this video off by saying this. Oftentimes you see on the internet these videos of these grade crossing collisions, and you'll see people say,
Darwinism award, Darwinism award.
Yes, it is the person's fault for not paying attention, but why does everybody else who witnessed the incident have to suffer because of it? Think about how many of these people are victims of this accident. Not only the person that lost their life and got hit, but the people watching, the train engineer, the paramedics and police that are going to have to respond to this. How many of these people do you think are actually going to go into work the next day after seeing a person literally get ripped apart? All this unneeded PTSD for what? So if you're a government official, I think we need to address our priorities. Human life. And while public transportation is a part of human life, human mental health and literally human life is a part of that as well. So when there is a plan and a space for both of them to coexist, I think we need to take advantage of that. Anyways, thank you Fred and Christian for taking time out of your day to talk about your project on this channel. I hope this motivates the rest of you guys who are watching. I know YouTube urbanism can kind of be doom and gloom a lot, and if you like this content, please consider donating to my Patreon. As a college student, it really helps, like a lot, especially when your president is trying to take away your scholarship money.
I love the poorly educated.
Also, the entirety of the interview is posted on my Patreon. Again, check out Christian's channel for more details about the project and just more interesting content in general. And if I earned your like and subscription, I love you. And if you made it this far in the video, thanks for watching.
Doors open.